In a city built on power, politics, and promises, one little girl vanished without a trace, and no one noticed for weeks. Her name was Relisha Rudd. Her story is not just about a missing child. It's about a system that was supposed to protect her, but failed at every level. This is a story of a broken world seen through the eyes of an 8-year-old girl, and how, in plain sight, she slipped away into darkness. This is the case of Relisha Rudd, a child lost in the system. Relisha Tenor Rudd was born on October 29, 2005, into a world already stacked against her. She was a bright, sweet, and soft-spoken child with big brown eyes and a gentle smile that gave away none of the turmoil surrounding her life. Her family, struggling with homelessness and poverty, found shelter, quite literally, at the now infamous D.C. General Homeless Shelter, a rundown facility once used as a public hospital before being converted into temporary housing. The shelter was anything but safe. Reports of drug use, violence, rodent infestations, and unsanitary conditions were rampant. Families lived in overcrowded rooms with no privacy. Children grew up in chaos. And Relisha, she was right in the middle of it. Her mother, Shomika Young, was just 16 when Relisha was born. Burdened by a life of poverty and instability, Shomika struggled to provide a stable home. Relisha's father wasn't around. Her grandmother, Melissa Young, often stepped in to help, but the challenges were too big, the resources too few. Still, despite everything, Relisha tried to be a normal kid. She loved dressing up, playing with her younger brothers, and watching cartoons. But behind her tiny smiles were signs of neglect and silent cries for help, and the people meant to protect her would overlook them again and again. From the outside, DC General looked like the end of the line. And for many, it was. At its peak, over 250 families, including more than 600 children, were crammed inside its walls. Security was minimal. Background checks on staff were lax. And despite being a government-run facility, oversight was shockingly poor. Among the employees was a man named Kahlil Tatum, a 51-year-old janitor with a smile that many children found disarming. Tatum worked at the shelter, moving among the families, gaining trust. He gave kids gifts, offered help, brought toys, and gave money. To struggling parents like Shomika Young, he seemed like a blessing. But to those who looked closer, he was something much more sinister. And Relisha, she started spending time with him. A grown man, alone. Relisha stopped attending school regularly. In fact, between February and March of 2014, she was absent for over 30 days. Staff at Payne Elementary School, where Relisha was a third grader, noticed. Concerned teachers and social workers reached out, but Shomika provided an excuse that should have sounded every alarm. She claimed Relisha was under the care of a Dr. Tatum. A school counselor accepted it. No questions asked. But here's the chilling truth. Kahlil Tatum was not a doctor. He wasn't even a licensed caregiver. He was a janitor with a criminal record, and he had essentially been given access to a child. Without permission, without scrutiny, and without challenge. It would be weeks before anyone realized something was terribly wrong. Child Protective Services had been involved with the Rudd family before. Reports of abuse, neglect, and unstable home conditions had been filed. Neighbors had spoken up. Staff at the shelter had expressed concerns. There were red flags everywhere, but none of it added up to action. No one removed Relisha from the shelter. No one questioned why a school accepted a janitor as a doctor. No one asked why a child was being picked up late at night by a grown man not in her family. All the systems, the school, the shelter, CPS, pointed fingers at one another, delaying intervention while Relisha slipped further into danger. By the time the truth began to unfold, it was already too late. On March 1, 2014, surveillance cameras captured footage of Relisha and Kahlil Tatum walking down a hallway at a Holiday Inn Express in Washington, D.C. She was carrying shopping bags. He was calm. She didn't seem afraid. But this would be the last confirmed sighting of Relisha Rudd alive. Over the following days, Tatum continued to check into hotels, alone. He bought items from stores. Surveillance picked him up multiple times. But Relisha was nowhere to be seen. On March 13, 2014, the school finally contacted authorities when the counselor, still unable to verify Dr. Tatum, realized something was very wrong. But by then, it had been 18 days since anyone had actually seen Relisha. 18 days lost. 18 days of silence. 18 days where the system failed her, again. The case was no longer just about a truant child. It was now a full-scale missing persons investigation. The media caught on. Police scrambled. And the city of Washington, D.C. was about to wake up to a nightmare. Who was Kahlil Tatum? Really? What happened in those missing days? And how could a little girl vanish in the nation's capital without anyone noticing? Stay with us, because the next chapter dives deep into the shadowy figure at the heart of this tragedy and what investigators discovered in his wake. When we last left off, 8-year-old Relisha Rudd had vanished. A child who should have been safe under the care of a shelter and a school system was last seen on hotel security cameras with a janitor falsely identified as a doctor. That janitor, Kahlil Tatum, wasn't just a friendly face. What police would soon uncover would send shockwaves through the city. Kahlil Malik Tatum wasn't new to law enforcement. He had a criminal record dating back decades: burglary, larceny, assault. A man with a long and troubled past. He'd spent years in and out of jail. But when he applied for a janitorial job at D.C. General Family Shelter, background checks were minimal. Despite his history, Tatum was hired. But he wasn't just mopping floors. Tatum befriended families, charmed children, and earned the trust of desperate mothers who saw him as a provider, a man with money, gifts, and promises. For many, he was someone who could ease their pain, even if temporarily. But Tatum's intentions weren't pure. According to reports from multiple families, he had a pattern: showering kids with presents, inviting them out without proper supervision, offering financial favors to struggling mothers in exchange for time with their children. And somehow, Relisha Rudd became his focus. The lie that allowed Tatum to gain complete access to Relisha was simple and terrifying in how easily it worked. When the school pressed Shamika Young about Relisha's continued absences, she calmly said the girl was under the care of Dr. Tatum. And no one pushed back. No ID check. No contact verification. No background investigation. A shelter janitor had become a fictional doctor in the eyes of a public school system. And because of it, a child disappeared under their noses. In a later interview, Shamika's reasoning would disturb many. She admitted that Tatum cared for Relisha and helped buy her things she couldn't afford. That she trusted him. That he loved Relisha. But what kind of love was this? Once the school sounded the alarm on March 13, 2014, the Metropolitan Police Department of Washington, D.C. launched an immediate investigation. But the trail had already grown cold. The last confirmed sighting, the hotel footage from March 1st, was nearly 2 weeks old. Investigators scrambled to retrace Tatum's steps. Surveillance showed him entering and exiting hotels, shopping alone, driving various cars. One of those cars, a red SUV, was registered to his wife, Andrea Tatum. And then came the chilling twist. On March 20th, police located Andrea Tatum's body in a motel in Prince George's County, Maryland. She had been shot in the head, execution style. The room had been booked under Kahlil's name. No sign of Relisha. No DNA. No fingerprints. No blood. Just silence. Tatum was now officially a suspect in a murder investigation, and the last known person seen with a missing child. The same day Andrea's body was discovered, police received a tip. Tatum had been seen in Kenilworth Park and Aquatic Gardens, a sprawling 700-acre park located near the Anacostia River. It was a place known for wildlife, water, and isolated woods. A perfect place, many feared, to hide something. Or someone. Over the next week, more than 200 officers and volunteers joined the search. Canines were deployed. Drones scanned the water. Divers combed the murky rivers. Every corner of the park was covered. But still, no Relisha. What they were beginning to suspect was worse than anything they had imagined. Tatum had motive. He had time. And now, he had disappeared, too. With pressure mounting, police released Tatum's face to the public. Posters went up. TV stations broadcast his name. A city was on edge. Who was harboring him? Was Relisha still alive? Then, on March 31st, the search came to a grim conclusion. Police found Kahlil Tatum's body in a shed inside Kenilworth Park. He had taken his own life with a shotgun blast to the head. Next to him, a Bible, a bottle of liquor, and one haunting question left unanswered. Where is Relisha Rudd? There was no note, no message, no clue, just a dead man, a grieving city, and a girl still missing. One by one, the pieces began to fall. But none of them led to the one truth the world was desperate to know. What happened to Relisha? The man who last saw her was now dead. The mother was silent, and the shelter, the school, and the city were left pointing fingers in a whirlwind of guilt. But the investigation was far from over. What about the timeline? What about the gaps in surveillance? What about the disturbing rumors that began to circulate among those close to the family? In Part 2, we dive deeper into the city's frantic search for the missing girl, the media firestorm, and the growing suspicion that someone still knew more than they were saying.